Alright Vapestas, welcome to another Review Wednesday here on Indoor Smokers. So today we're going to be taking a look at something new that is also something old as I review the new Egrip by Joytech in its 8-volt 30-watt version. And this one also takes the new Ego 1 coil. So sit back, have a vape, and get a grip, an Egrip. Whoop! So I feel like I have reviewed this one already, but it keeps coming back to me. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. So I'm just going to do a quick review on this. It is very similar to the original E-grips that were so popular at the end of last year. So the biggest difference with this new version is that it does 30 watts instead of 20 watts. But I actually got a tip for those of you who have the original E-grip. There is a trick to make them go up to 30 watts as well. But there are videos out there showing you how to pimp your E-grip. So pimping ain't easy, and now it ain't necessary. Well, those of you familiar with the original E-grip, you will see there is really not much difference. It is a very tiny little 1500 mAh device with a 3.6 milliliter tank with a little clear window that you can see right through. I mean, I do have to say it is a very nifty little kind of sweet device. I'm always surprised at just how small it is. I actually have an eLeaf 50 watt for you guys to give a comparison to. So probably about the same size. Keep in mind the eLeaf, you're going to have to put a tank on top. Bam! This has got the recessed built-in tank right inside the unit itself. So before we get into the specs and I get this thing filled and we start vaping on it, I'll go ahead and show you guys what comes in the box. So of course we have the eGrip itself on the top layer. Second layer, you got your warranties, your instruction books, a bunch of extra O-rings, including these little tops for your coils. You are going to need to use these. I'll talk about them a little bit more in a minute. And then you got your wall charger, USB charger. Now on top of that, you have a replacement coil. These are the Ego 1 ohm resistance coils. This is not going to be a sub-ohm vape, nor does it really have the airflow for doing sub-ohm full lung hit type things. I would say this is something that would be more of a beginner vape or just a backup second vape for someone who wants to have something that they can just grab and take on the go. So everything you're going to need for this unit comes right in the box, including the tank. Now one other piece I'm going to show you guys that is not something I'm thrilled about, but you get this little piece. You got to use it for two different purposes. You have two ends of this. This is going to be used to take the coil piece out, so keep in mind you are going to need to have a little something to remove, which to me just kind of seems like an extra step. So as you can see right here, you got your slot, you got your little piece. You just unscrew this until it's ready to fall out. Now keep in mind, if this is filled with juice, you're going to get some leakage coming out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right now before I fill it, but otherwise you're going to want to keep it upside down like this as you replace that coil. Alright guys, so just as promised, you've got on here a little Ego 1 coil with this rubber seal on the top of it, which you're going to need to use for this. And then this just screws in or out of your base piece. Now this does have a rebuildable base that you can get with it, but you do have to buy that separately, and then I do think you can use the original E-grip coils in this as well, but I'm sure I'd rather use these little Ego 1 since I like these. I'm going to go ahead and prime this coil real quick, then we'll fill up the tank and we'll go ahead and try vaping it and see what it does. So the other thing that you can use this other end for is going to be to adjust the airflow. There is a screw right here. See if you guys can see it. That corresponds to this hole opening, and there's a screw inside that is going to open to allow more airflow or close across to allow less. Alright, I've got it all the way open now. It's a small hole to begin with. I don't get much of the point for having the adjustment on it, and it's very difficult to see. But alright, now on to the third unique special feature about this is the way that you fill it. You got like a little flip trap door right here that pops open. And then as you can see on the top, you got your seal. It's like a rubber seal. That's what's going to keep your juice inside once you get this thing filled. And then inside of here, you have two holes. A bigger hole and a little hole. The big hole is the one that you're going to want to fill with juice. The little hole is to let air out. So you want to use the right hole for the right thing. That's what she said. You're going to have the easiest time filling this with a needle nose tip like this. I don't find the drippers work very well. You want something that you can actually push the whole thing down in that hole. And then you can see the juice levels as it fills. And then once you got it full, you want to make sure that you snap that all the way back into place again. So you got a tight seal. Besides the base with the removable coils, you can also replace your drip tip if you so desire. It's a pretty standard size one. I think it would fit most drip tips. And then you power the unit on by clicking the power button 5 times. And then your screen's going to come to life just like that. We're in voltage mode now. You can switch to wattage mode by clicking the button 3 times. Like so. Now you adjust wattages in 0.1 increments by spinning this dial. But you'll notice that the more times you spin the dial, the larger the jump is between numbers. So when the first time you spin the dial, it moves in 0.1 increments. If you spin it a second time, it moves in 0.2. And then if you spin it a third time, it'll move in 0.5. So that you do get a fast scroll action going on this. I'm gonna go ahead and start this thing at 15 watts since this is a 1 ohm above ohm coil. I'll let you guys check out the screen here. Have a time count while you're vaping. Then the screen will go back and you'll see your wattage, voltage, and resistance right there. It's reading this coil at a perfect 1 ohm. So we should be in pretty good shape. So I'm gonna go ahead then. I've got a 15 watt vape I'm gonna be doing on this. That is probably about the best you're gonna get at 15 watts. We're only pushing 3.8 volts right now, so we shouldn't have any problem turning it up. I'm gonna go ahead and do 20, which is the max that you would have been able to do on the original Egrips without pimping them out. All right, well, something strange. My unit would only go up to 20 watts. There was nothing in the instructions, nothing anywhere telling you how to change it to 30. So I had to actually go watch the video again myself to see how to adjust this from 20 to 30 watts. So the same technique you would use with the original E-Grip to turn it to 30 watts, you may have to do when you get yours, which is a pain in the ass. But when it's at 20 watts, this is what you're gonna need to do if you have the same problem I have and your E-Grip will only go up to 20 watts. When it's at 20 watts, you have to turn it all the way up. You hit the button 5 times to turn it off. When it is off, you click the button 30 times. Now after 5 clicks, it'll turn back on. Just keep on clicking. You gotta count to 30 exactly, stop clicking, and then it will switch over to 30 watts. So after clicking the button 30 times, you will be able to achieve 30 watts, which is still not a ton of watts. So kind of a lot of trouble to go through just to be able to get kind of an underpowered mod anyway. So here's a 20 watt vape on the 1 ohm resistance coil. This is all you would be able to do on the original E-Grip. And like I said, this really is more of a mouth to lunger. Now in the RBA section, they do say you can get more of a lung hit. It has a little bit more airflow, but still not as much airflow as you'd want if you're gonna wanna blow really big clouds doing full lung hits. All right, gonna go ahead and turn it up to 25 watts and then we will max it out at 30, which will really be pushing this thing at 1 ohm resistance. And of course this thing doesn't go below 1 ohm. You do have the rebuildable deck you can get for it, but you're still not going to be able to build anything below 1. So for those rebuilders out there, most of them as far as I know like to sub ohm. So this unit still seems like a little bit of a tweener. It's not going to do quite what people who are into sub-ohm and rebuilding are going to want it to do, and it seems a little too complicated for new vapors in my opinion. They're just easier units like an Ego 1 and iJust 2, something like that. That's going to be a lot easier and simpler and is going to actually give you more vaping range. But anyways, this is what this is doing at 25 watts. So I'm really not even used to mouth to lung hitting as much anymore. I've been vaping on the sub-ohm coils for the last few months. And so even doing a vape like this just kind of seems like a little bit more meager vapor production than what you're used to these days. But here we go. At 30 watts, this thing is pushing 5.4 volts. It says it goes up to 8 volts, but at 1 ohm, 5.4 is the most you're going to be able to get off of this. So you can start producing some vapor, definitely more than you could at the original 20 watts. The issues I have with this is just that it's overly complicated. I feel like the fact that you have to use something to unscrew the base just to change a coil, the fact that you need something else to adjust the airflow, and then the fact that it only came set at 20 watts with no instructions on how to make it go to 30 watts. Even though the box lid clearly says 30 watts, I think most people would expect this thing to go up to 30 watts when they get it without having to do some kind of trick to get it to do it. So I don't know. I'm not thrilled by the Egrip myself. If you are really, really into tiny vapes, then this might be the thing because you can't fit the entire thing with the tank all in a hand basically. But that really is kind of where the benefits end. I don't love the adjustment. It feels like it's a little bit overly of a pain to have to keep spinning these rings to get you up and down in that 30 watt range. And then final complaint is just simply that it doesn't take those sub-ohm Ego 1 coils. If it did that and had bigger airflow and was a little bit more of a simple design, I could be all behind the actual form of this. It's the function that I have problems with. Now, one thing I will say is that the flavor is really good off of this, but of course you're using the Ego 1 coils, which are awesome. I love my Ego 1. But I will go ahead, put a link underneath the video where you can go check out the new Egrip OLED for yourself, as well as the E-Juice, the Miami Fusion that I've been vaping on. Alright, Vapesters, that's going to do it for me for this Review Wednesday video. I now return you guys to your regularly scheduled lives. See you tomorrow.
And don't forget to subscribe to Indoor Smokers. Come on, well, what else have you got to do, seriously?